Hello, everyone. Welcome to Progress Junior Golf with Live Sport Now and the England Golf Young Ambassadors. My name's Steve Jackson, and this is a very poorly Ian Waterhouse.
Hello, Steve. Hello, everybody. I don't want any sympathy at all.
You're not going to get any, don't worry about that.
I am suffering from a severe case of man flu, very severe. I don't feel very well, but I just wanted to see you and everybody tuning in because Steve, we finally took a bit longer than we thought, but we eventually got to episode 50.
Absolutely, yeah. I know it's a different sport. Well, we are 50 not out.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have to raise our bat and all that kind of thing, to the thousands watching out there. But yes, we've got to 50.
Raise our putters to the sky.
That's it. Yes, yeah. 50 on the front nine. That's probably about right for me, actually.
Yeah, actually, isn't it? In cricket, 50 is you just point the bat forward, and it's 100 when it goes up, isn't it?
Is that right?
I think so. I'm not sure.
Okay, we're talking cricket here. This is a golf podcast, by the way, for anyone who is interested. Right, now this podcast.
The thing is, though, Steve, it's too cold to play golf at the minute.
You say that then, but I've been organising some events during the winter in a local county, and we've got an event coming up on Sunday, and it's sold out. We've got 52 juniors playing in it. So the kids out there, they want to play golf, and they don't care what kind of weather it is. So
let's ask everybody that question, shall we? It's the 18th of January today. How many rounds of golf have you played? Comment below. There's a live chat where that QR code is just above Steve's head there. Scan that, it'll take you through to the live chat. Or if you're watching on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, wherever, just comment below how many rounds of golf have you played and tell us where you play at as well. Just so we can find out, because I haven't played any golf this year. So I'm sorry.
No, well, look, I've got to be perfect. Neither have I, kind of thing. But that's more down to the weather, with obviously a lot of rain around.
Yeah.
And actually, I did have another event organised earlier in the year, which was cancelled because of the rain. So golf courses have been suffering a little bit over the last few weeks or so. But fingers crossed, everything should be okay. Hopefully, on Sunday for my latest junior event. Right now, as we mentioned, there are 50 podcasts we've had. This podcast is all about junior golf. It's about the next generation of golf. It's about getting more boys and girls playing the game of golf. Now, in general, we've covered lots of different subjects in this podcast over the last 2 years. This year, or should I say last year rather, we did 23 podcasts then. The first one was a review of 2022. This one will be a review of 2023. But just looking back at those podcasts we did, 22 different subjects we covered. How many different guests did we have on, Ian? How are we going to guess? Okay, whether it's pre-recorded interviews or live guests? How many different guests?
Okay, 23 shows. So we had at least one show per guest. So we start at the base of 23. That's not my answer, by the way.
Yes.
I would say, but we had a lot of guests on pre-recorded videos, didn't we? 23. I would say over the course of the year, we averaged just over 4 guests per show. So I'm going to say 100.
And anyone who's a regular on this podcast knows that Ian is horrendous at guessing when I give him these questions. And once again, he lives up to his tag there. We've had 39 guests on, Ian.
39? Is that it?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was a lot more than that.
But we had a lot of repeat.
We had some repeat guests as well, didn't we? Actually,
we did. Yes, true. But we had some big names. And we had Ryder Cup players, we had tour professionals, we had Solheim Cup players, Solheim Cup captains. We've had major winners. We've had club professionals. We've had junior organisers, club secretaries, England golf representatives. We've had company bosses, golf company bosses. We've had junior tour organisers. We've actually had other sports. We've had sirs on. We've had a sir on this show, haven't we?
We have, yeah.
From another sport. We've had international golfers.
We were talking about journalists.
It earlier. Yes.
50 not out.
Yes, absolutely. We might see him a little bit later on. You never know. But one of the things which we have pushed with this Progress Junior Golf podcast is to give juniors a voice as well. So, okay, next question then for you. 39 guests on. How many of those have been England Golf Young Ambassadors then, Ian?
I don't want to look stupid.
Different young ambassadors.
Okay, different. I'm going to say 12.
You're getting better. 13. So one out of every 3 guests that we've had on this program has been an England Golf Young Ambassador. So I think we're doing a good job there. We've given them the opportunity to give a junior perspective on all the subjects that we've been covering. And throughout this show, we're going to look at those subjects. And also, as the start of the podcast said, we're going to be looking ahead as well to 2024 as well, and about what we might be covering in the podcast to come over the next 12 months or so. Right. Do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll get on with the news, which will be a review. So just tell us, anyone who wants to get involved again, how they can do that, Ian.
Yes, absolutely. As ever, Steve, this is an interactive show. We are live right now, so we can see your comments if you do want to get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. The live chat is open at Live Sport Now. There's a QR code just above Steve's head. You can give that a scan. It'll take you straight through to Live Sport Now on YouTube, where if you put your comment into that live chat, we can show it on screen. There is a link in the body of this broadcast, wherever you're watching it as well. It can take you straight through again to Live Sport Now's YouTube channel. Whilst you're there, just hit that little subscribe button as well. Also, at any point, if you do want to find out more about Progress Junior Golf, there is also a link to Steve's website in the body of this broadcast too. So give it a click. You can find out all more information about Progress Junior Golf, but don't do it until after the podcast. Steve,
yes,
back to you.
And as far as the podcast, as far as the website is concerned as well, it has all junior competitions in the country. I'm continually updating that when I find out where these events are taking place. There are already 500 junior events on there already, and that's from all the different tours, county events.
And that's coming up in 2024.
That's and last year there was over 1,000. So you can imagine how many more I still need to put on there. But yeah, that's throughout next year. In England, Ireland, Scotland, and in Wales as well. So throughout the UK and Ireland, we've got loads of events which people can play in. Right. First things first, then, let's look at the junior golf news from last year then. As it's normally the case here, I mean, we did do the junior news right the way through until April, but generally speaking, the start of the golf season traditionally is the US Masters. And there was...
No.
And there was...
No, it's not.
Well...
It's not. It's the Sunningdale
Foursomes. But there was, and actually I should mention, and there were some juniors playing in that as well, but not the person who I'm about to mention, because the defending champion for the Sunningdale Foursomes wasn't available to play in it. But Lottie Woad did play at Augusta. She played in the Augusta National Women's Amateur Championship, which is a prelude to the US Masters. It gives the opportunity for players that I think they have 2 rounds on another course, and then if you make the cut, you then go and play at Augusta. And Lottie went on to finish 13th, was the best of the British players. Kaylee McGinty, Charlotte Heath were the only other ones who made it through to play at Augusta. So well done to her. US amateur, obviously the British and the US amateur champion both play in the US Masters as well. And last year's winner, or previous year's winner of the British Amateur Championship, was Aldrich Potgieter, I think he is South African, and he was a junior golfer when he won the championship. He played at the US Masters, missed the cut, but obviously what a great experience for him. Now, so moving on to competitions which did take place then during the season, then lots of them around the country, and I can't really mention all of them, but we'll go through a few of them. Scottish Boys Championship took place at London. That was won by Sean Keeling from Ireland. Scottish Girls Championship, that took place at Long Nidri. Olivia Costello won that by 4 shots. So a double Irish victory there. 2 Irish players coming over and winning in Scotland. So well done to them. Staying in Scotland, though, this was a Scottish home winner and a very good player as well. One which we think, we've mentioned him on quite a lot of occasions throughout the entire year. We think this lad's got some real potential and could go on to become, Scottish golf past, with Bob McIntyre playing the Ryder Cup, one who could follow in his footsteps. A lad, 16-year-old called Conor Graham. You might remember him. He won the Scottish Men's Open Championship, which took place at Meldred House, won by 4 shots. He played in the Walker Cup as well a little bit later on in the year. The Junior Golf World Cup that took place in Japan. Japan won both the men's, or the boys, and the girls' titles. Back in this country then, some of the big competitions. The English Under-18s Amateur Championship, that was won by Alex Wells. Shot 68, 68, 70 and 70, so 12 under par. The Irish Boys and Girls Amateur Championship took place. This is what we're talking about, all competitions quite early on in the year. These are. Boys was won by John Doyle, and the girls was won by Kareem O'Grady. Now, best finish to a tournament of the year, you might remember this, took place well, this is my opinion. I think this is probably the best finish to the tournament of the year. English Boys Under-16 Championship, the McGregor Trophy, took place at Hunstanton Golf Club. Now, it was a playoff. The playoff was won on the second playoff hole. But you've got to get into a playoff, haven't you?
Yes, I think I remember where this is going. Yeah, this was some.
And to get into a playoff, you have to do something special. And when you're coming down the last hole and you need an eagle to get into a playoff, you need to do it from 144 yards out. That's what Cameron Mukherjee did. He holed out from 144 yards out for an eagle.
Who did he beat in the playoffs?
He actually lost the playoff, but so what? Kind of
thing. He lost the playoff.
He lost the playoff.
Oh, right,
but to get in the playoff, he eagled the last hole, the 72nd hole, and he lost to Chris Kim. Now, Chris Kim had a fantastic year. I think the Golf Awards have got some awards coming up this year, and I think he's up for the performance of the year. We mentioned the performance of him winning the McGregor Trophy. Well, he won one of the big competitions as well, and we've got a photo of him, the winner of the Boys Amateur Championship, which took place at Ganton Golf Club. He won the boys once again a playoff, and if we're talking about best finishes of the year, then this is probably the worst finish. He, not necessarily from him, but the poor guy who's played against, an American called Alex Papaiono. On the second extra hole, he had a 3-footer to beat Chris, missed it, and then missed the return putt as well. So that's my kind of golf. That is 3-putting from 3 foot out. But I think we
hang on. I've got the picture. I've got the picture here, Steve. Sorry, there we go. Look,
there's Chris on the right. The girl on the left hand side is Helen Bream, who won the Girls Championship, which took place at Ganton Golf Club, and she became the first ever German to win that title. So well done to her, and well done to Chris as well, and good luck to him when they have the England Golf Awards. I'm sure he's going to be, probably one of the favourites to win that title.
Will you be there, Steve? Will you be at the awards?
I'm waiting for that invite that you're still waiting for the Faldo Series Grand Final. I don't know.
I'm still waiting for the England Golf invite as well, but it doesn't seem to be. I don't know. I don't know.
The postal service in your area is terrible, isn't it?
I'll tell you. Do you know what it is? Generally, it's because in Bracknell. It's because Fujitsu are in Bracknell. I'm not even making it up. It's true. It's a massive Fujitsu.
Right, we're not going down that route. Please don't. Right, let's stay with golf. Right, okay. Question for you. Then I'm going to give you 3 options here. Who you think this one? The family award. Right, 3 stories here. You have to pick the best family.
Okay.
Right. No, not the Mukherjees. They're not one of the 3. So one of them. Right, the Weavers. Friend of the podcast.
I'm biased towards Weavers. I like those guys a lot.
Okay, fair enough. Right, England golf then. England international Tyler Weaver. He won the English Boys Amateur Championship wire to wire. First round leader, went all the way through to the 4th round and won it. Scores of 68, 68, 69, and 67. So 16 under par. That was at Moore Park. Won by 5 shots. Then a few days later, his older brother Max won the Welsh Men's Amateur Closed Championship at Newport. Won the final 2-1 against Tommy Bowen. So that's option 1.
Okay. The Weavers. Option 1. Okay.
Right. The Richardsons then. Option 2. The Welsh Golf Junior Championship took place at Cardiff Golf Club. The winner of the Under-16s Championship was Thomas Richardson. The winner of the Under-14s Championship was Fionn Richardson. So Thomas and Fionn Richardson became the first ever brother and sister to win both the tournaments on the same day. So that's the Richardsons then.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Right. Finally then, the Peafords.
Oh yeah.
So the Peafords then.
This might take some beating.
Annabelle, absolutely. Annabelle and Emily. So this all surrounds the Women's Championship, which took place, the Women's Champion Club event, at St Ives Golf Club in Huntingdon. Then the course record was broken 3 times in the space of 2 days. On the first day, Annabelle Peaford, who's 14 years of age, by the way, she shot a 70 to set the course record. The following day, it was broken by Ganton's Amy Stavely, shot 3 under par 69, and she held the course record for a grand total of 2 hours. Before Emily Peaford, who's the twin sister of Annabelle, broke the course record with a 5 under par 67. You said it was a good story, didn't you, Ian? So the Peafords then, what a fantastic time they had in that event. But Emily also broke a course record again later on the same week at North Hants Golf Club. and she shot 9 under par to set a course record. So there we go.
Yeah, I think, I mean, look.
Is it the Weavers, is it the Richardsons, or is it the Peafords, Ian?
I've got a bit of bias towards the Weavers because I think it was Tyler won the English under-18s at Woodall, not 22, I think, and I was there for that. But the way the Peafords, I think, to beat course records at their age as well. Also, Northants Golf Club is just up the road from it. It's a track I know very well. I've filmed there a few times with Clutch Pro Tour and stuff. And I think the Peafords are going to just edge this one. Just edge this one.
We'll get that one. Unofficial vote, we'll give it to them there.
Well, tell us what you think, everybody tuning in. What was the better story? Which
hey, look, at the end of the day, all three of them fantastic families, and they've all had a great year. So well done to all three.
Yeah.
Right. So a few other stories over the last year. Home internationals was won by England won the home internationals rather. The boys and girls combined, but the boys actually was won by Ireland, which is the first time they won that, I think, for a decade. So that took place at Lindrick. Other team events, and this might get mentioned as well when we go through the podcast which we've done, because the Junior Solheim Cup took place this year. And Europe won that, back-to-back wins. So they won it the previous time, the first time in history. Then they won it 2 times on the trot. They beat the USA in Spain 15-9. And the Junior Ryder Cup, and we're going to have the captain on the show a little bit later on, because we did speak to him this year. Stephen Gallacher was the captain, and Europe won that 8.5, 3.5. And bearing in mind that the USA had won the last 6 matches, so that's some win. Really came down to the second day, where they won the second day 6-0 and then carried it through on the final day to win in the singles. So well done to and obviously we won the Ryder Cup, we held on to the Solheim Cup, we won the Junior Solheim Cup, and we won the Junior Ryder Cup. So I think you have to say it wasn't a bad year for Europe as far as team golf was concerned.
Well, it sounds like PGA Tour's collapsing to me.
And that might have got mentioned in 1 or 2 of the podcasts this year as well. So, right. Just a couple of mentions then. The Fowler Series Grand Final, which we mentioned earlier. Another friend of the podcast, Ben Bolton, won that over in the UAE.
Yeah,
really good
great
performance
stuff,
as well. 65, 70, 66. He won by 7 shots. The Boys Under 18 Championship, another English winner there. Teddy Hall won in a playoff there. Right. Finally, though, best performance of the year. The Irish Junior Open Tour. Do you remember, Ian? Right. The Under-11s Championship then. What was the winning score from Pippa Cuff from St Anne's National School? Right. So I'll give you a bit of a clue. It was a 69 was the par for the course. So what do you think she shot?
Over how many rounds?
1 round, just the 1 round.
Oh, I'm sure I want to say something really silly.
We are talking here. This is the best performance of the year. So
yeah, because I remember you asking me this. I remember you asking me this earlier in the year, and back into 2023, and I said something like, "It was past 69, 11 years old, from the tees she was playing for age, yeah." Yes. I think I said something like 66 or something, but wasn't it like? But it wasn't that, was it? It was.
No, it wasn't that. No.
Wasn't it something silly like 55 or something?
It's something silly like that. 55. You're right. Yeah, it was 42 under par. Net 27.
I wanted to say something in the 4s, but I didn't want to look stupid.
Yeah, but it was 42 under par.
Yeah.
Net 27 on a par 69 golf course. So, even now, I'm amazed when I read that story and I was going back over the stories we covered in the year. So by a distance, that wins the performance.
How that didn't make national news is beyond me.
I have no idea. No, but that's good old Michael Gallagher who runs the Champion of Champions event. Little announcement I have to make as well, Ian, is the fact that I'm going out to the Champion of Champions next year. Take place at the late July. I'll be there taking the photos for the grand final. So we're going to we'll do a proper good podcast on that. I think there are 40 different countries which will be representing in that grand final. So that'll be 250 juniors from across the world. So that's going to be a massive event for next year. So yeah, right. Let's look back then on 2023 then, because as we mentioned, 23 shows, 39 different guests. there was a few people who came on the podcast on a few occasions.
Not 100.
Not 100. Well, there might well have been 100 guests in total if we count me and you. Kind of.
Yeah, 100 appearances of faces throughout the
Yes.
course of the year is probably about right. You know,
you might be. Yeah, that's but 39 different people.
Yeah.
Right. It all started off with we did the review of the year. Then we did like a beginner's guide to junior golf. So we had Aaron Lansbury on, who is a former winner of the England Coach of the Year. And you know, it was our way of kind of like almost reintroducing golf to the juniors out there, because you know there'll be people who watch this podcast who might be new to golf, might not know the terms and conditions. You know, so we went through, you know, may sound silly to some people. We went through what's a birdie, what's a par, you know, what's you know, because there are lots of terms which sound weird, don't they? If you don't know a sport, you know, if you know, I know you do handball. I'm sure there are terms in handball whereby people who know handball would know what it means.
Not compared to golf, Steve. I've never known anything like golf.
No, yeah, I mean, you know, a bogey to most people is something completely different from what it is in golf, isn't it?
I've got a lot of those at the minute with my man flu.
Absolutely, yeah. So we covered that. Now, next podcast, which we did, and actually we're going to be doing it again this year. We did one with Charlie Hull. There was 3 golfers who had the opportunity to have a round of golf with Charlie Hull at Woburn Golf Club. That's been set up again. It'll happen again in February. But it was fascinating, the fact that we had a chat with Charlie, you know, and how role models, you know, the professional golfers, the big stars in the game, are role models to junior golfers. And that's what she did. She gave her time and gave those youngsters the opportunity to, you know, to have a round of golf.
That was almost a year ago. Do you know?
I know, you know, and you mentioned earlier about how, you know, the weather was pretty good on that day, you know, bearing in mind that, you know, it was late January, I think, when we did that. And actually, we also mentioned as well, of all the podcasts that we did during the year, it was the only one whereby I wasn't physically in the studio. We had a guest presenter, and who was that?
Why weren't you there?
I can't remember. I see, it wasn't me. You were there. It was England Golf Young Ambassador Jen Myers, who stepped in.
Of course it was Jen. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, she announced which university she was going to as well, didn't she?
Is that right?
During the show, and I think she went to Stirling in the end.
She did. You're right. From the south coast right the way up to pretty much as far north as you can. Well, certainly far north than.
I think that was
London.
our most watched episode of the year, actually.
Is that because Charlie or because of Jen? Or it certainly wasn't because of either of us two being involved.
Certainly wasn't because of you and me. No,
that's it. Yes. Right. So then we moved on. I mentioned a little bit earlier. We were talking competition formats. We had Ireland Junior Golf founder Michael Gallagher came on. Also, UK Kids organizer Nathan Jackson and England Golf Young Ambassador Courtney Martland. So we looked at the different kind of competition formats we can have in junior golf. You kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, but something like Live as well, which has obviously brought a different type of format to professional golf, which really we hadn't seen before. You know, we've obviously seen team golf in the Ryder Cup and the Solheim Cup, but we've never seen it on a regular basis. And obviously we looked at that. We looked at Staplefords and the different ways that you can have junior competition. So, you know, different things which can attract different types of golfers, you know, because, you know, something a medal format in junior golf can be tough, can't it, for very young golfers, because it can be brutal at times, can't it? So, you know, different formats which you can hopefully attract juniors into the game. Now, the next podcast, which took place in mid-March, where junior voices on committees. It's one whereby, you know, we're quite proud of the fact that we've had England golfers on this podcast. We give them a voice. Well, we gave 3 of them a voice on that show, because we had England Golf Young Ambassadors Tom Ford, Zara Watnabe, and Emily Horsted, who Emily is the Young Volunteer of the Year award. She won it a few weeks before that. So it was our opportunity to basically almost like go, right, this is your platform. You go and talk about what you want to talk about. And you know, hopefully there were clubs out there who watched that and went, actually, we need to get more juniors involved in our clubs and get them involved in committees.
It was a really valuable episode, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you know, there was an episode later on in the year whereby we had a junior organizer who was coming on for the first time, and that's some of the things which we explained to him, whereby try and get some juniors involved when you're organizing your club events, because then at least you can get their perspective on how how it runs and how and why they enjoy it. And sometimes you have to hear negative comments from the kids to go, actually, we aren't quite getting it right for the kids. So it was fascinating and important, the fact that we gave them the opportunity to speak on the show. Right. There was 2 podcasts we did consecutive where we looked at something which we'd never looked at really in the Progress Junior Golf Podcast, and that was coaching. We chatted a little bit about it, but we looked at coaching young golfers and coaching slightly older junior golfers. And obviously there is a massive difference, isn't there, in between coaching a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old to coaching a 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old, isn't that?
Well, I think the thing about golf, isn't it, is that it's a completely different game at different age groups, isn't it? Football is football. Okay, I know you're playing different pitch sizes, and 8-year-olds play 5-a-side as opposed to 11-a-side, but the principle's exactly the same. And with golf, though, there's so much to learn, so many things that can go wrong. It's almost a different game, and the way that you swing the ball and the clubs that you play. I mean, it's you can't teach somebody who's 8 to play the way that you would teach somebody who's even 11. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. So we had PGA Club professional Phil Akers, who came on both shows. He spoke. He's a very experienced coach who works with younger golfers, works with older golfers as well. So he came it from the 2 different perspectives. And for the one where we were talking about the older junior golfers as well, we also got the point of view from Paul Broadhurst, of course, a former Ryder Cup player and a major winner at senior level as well. Had a long chat with him, and he actually was helping out with his junior open at his local club, which is Atherstone Golf Club. Pleased to say as well that I'm going to be helping out with their junior open this year, and Paul is hopefully going to be coming along again for that event as well. So be great to see him. We also had young ambassadors, Olivia Whittle and Daniel Robson, who obviously gave their perspective of how the coaching got them into the game, and obviously has got both of them on to become young ambassadors. So we don't expect every player who's ever going to start playing the game at a young age to go on and become a young ambassador. But that's the kind of thing, if you get the love of the game, then you can get more out of these juniors than perhaps what you might think just by some good coaching. The next episode we did was slightly different because we had one person on, and we were talking about the Alexis Brown Golf Foundation, which is a charity set up in aid of Alexis Brown, who died very tragically overnight. She had a very rare condition, and on the back of that, you think of something, the tragedy of that, someone who played golf as a very young golfer, what do you try and bring out of that? Well, Ben Brown, who was the dad, came on, and he'd set up this foundation, and they've been running competitions to try and raise money for underprivileged golfers, people from backgrounds whereby, because Alexis was a mixed race young golfer, perhaps from a mixed race background, some of the racism which she'd faced when she was a young golfer as well. So fascinating to talk to him and what the good work that he was doing. It was a
brutally open and honest episode, wasn't it? Go back and watch that, by the way, if you get the chance. All of the videos stay on Live Sport Now and Progress Junior Golf on YouTube and Facebook and wherever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fascinating as well. And I'm pleased to say as well, just today he's contacted me today and says they've got another event set up in the foundation taking place at Nelcott Hall Golf Club in Warwickshire. So another big event coming up, and I'll be there for that. Right. So lots of different subjects we've spoken about. One thing which we hadn't touched upon, which we needed to, was about joining a golf club, because we mentioned about coaching the club. Well, what about how you actually go through that process of joining a golf club? So we got young ambassadors Tom Ford and Kennedy Murphy who came on, but also we got the club's perspective as well. So a former golf club secretary, John Gilding, came on, and so obviously you had it from a junior's point of view, as when you first turn up at the golf club, how sometimes it was scary, sometimes it was a little being overawed. So you obviously had whereby John was trying to give it from a club's perspective as what they were looking for from a junior golfer, and also how they had to deal with one of the fascinating conversations, and I'm sure you remember this, was when we were talking about the interview process. Whereby you had to go through an interview to become a junior member at some clubs, kind of thing. And that can be scary at any age, but for
and there's still some pretty old-fashioned clubs out there, isn't there?
Yes, so we heard from John who basically tried to make it as informal as possible. At the same time, he obviously still wanted to meet them and still wanted to, I think he probably tried to avoid the phrase interview and tried to make it just a bit of a chat, just to find out a little bit more about what they wanted to do with their golf kind of thing. So, but interesting talking, from a golf club's point of view and also from a juniors point of view. Now, the next one was one whereby you were heavily involved with this podcast, and that's when we talked about innovation in junior golf. So we had Golf Genius, who are a package whereby they use for events. I know England Golf have got involved with them now. They're using them to do all their events.
They're a software company, aren't they? They produce live leaderboards and things like that. They do a lot more than that as well.
Of course, yeah. Probably, one of the state of the art. Basically, they use a lot of innovation with the way that they use their system. James Sibbles came on, and we also had Stadium Golf's Nick Adicott, and
that was great.
So something a little bit different. Trying to use some stadiums. So they did an event at Twickenham, if you might remember. Yeah, they were looking to do some events at some other different venues, cricket venues, rugby venues.
I think they did, didn't they? They toured it around the country. I mean, you went, didn't you? I didn't go to any, but you went. What was it like?
Unfortunately, I couldn't actually make it to the event in the end. And typical, the event which I was hoping to go to was one of the ones that they unfortunately had to postpone, kind of thing, you see. So, but I know that we're going to be looking to them to try and do something similar this year as well. So, but, really interesting the fact that, and I know from your point of view, you're very keen on innovation within junior golf to try and attract juniors and use different ways. I know that one of the things with the Faldo series, you love the fact that let's use music, on the driving range, that type of thing, in the sense of, make it a little bit different.
So it's just something, but it's not even really innovative. It's just having music. And I'll tell you who did it very well was Farnham Golf Club. And they did it when England Golf were there for the English under-18s, actually, the year Lottie Woad won it. And it just had music on the driving range, and local coffee vans had turned up. And it was just a real festival. It had a festival feel to it, whereas I've been to certain events, junior events as well, where you just almost wouldn't know there was an event taking place unless you really knew. Do you know what I mean? And I would have, like the starters as well. They all do a very good job. But when it's juniors, they could be a little bit more funky. On the first tee is Steve Jackson.
Yes.
From Kedleston Park, and it's like, right, stepping up onto the tee right now. We've got Steve the Man Jackson from Kedleston Park. Take it away, Steve. Just something, I'm a big one for breaking from tradition, keeping the elements of tradition which make the sport great, but just moving forward as well.
Just to mention as well, I know that we did actually mention this, might well be in the last podcast, to say it was coming up. It was postponed because of the weather, but we've got a night golf coming up on the Shire Junior Golf Tour coming up in a few weeks' time. So once again, that's just something a little bit different, playing golf in the dark. Have you ever played? I don't know if you asked you that question before.
Yeah. Because if it's not hard enough finding my ball when it's light.
Yes. Actually, I remember one of the first times I ever played night golf, and I remember hitting this shot and thinking, "Oh, that's nowhere near the pin." And my playing partner went, "Well, that looks pretty good." I'm like, I wasn't aiming there. I was aiming somewhere completely different. And I got to the hole, and it was 3 feet away from the pin.
Nice.
And I wasn't even aiming there. I was aiming way left, and I managed to slice it and put it next to the pin.
Maybe you should play night golf more often.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, by the way, I missed the putt. There you go. Right. So obviously, innovation was one of the podcasts which we looked at. The next one was we do touch upon subjects which are a little bit more serious on occasions, and we talked about dealing with success and failure within junior golf, and that is something which everyone has to deal with at some point. It's great when it's brilliant, it's great when everything's going well, but when it's not going quite so well, it can be tough out there. Golf is a brutal sport because I think some Tiger Woods might well have threw the comment, 156 players start the Open Championship. There are 155 who were failures and one winner. And that's how sometimes you have to forget, the fact that, just by doing well and around the golf, you don't have to win the tournament to have done well, and even if you don't do well.
It comes down to your own definition of success, doesn't it? Making the cut might be you winning, basically, Yeah,
absolutely. And the same dealing with success as well, not to become, too full of yourself, because just because you win a competition doesn't mean that you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, kind of thing. And also it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go on to become a professional golfer and top professionals. So fascinating.
You've got to remember, even Tiger Woods lost more tournaments than he won. So.
Absolutely. Yes, yeah. And on that show, we had a couple of young ambassadors. We had George Coop and James Beard. By the way, a lot of the people I've mentioned so far, the England young ambassadors, that was their debuts on the podcast as well. So these people, first time they'd ever come on the podcast.
They were all excellent as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Well done to all of them to coming on. Yeah, they all contributed, all gave different perspectives on inevitably different perspectives on how they got into golf and some of the experiences that they've had during their time. They were new on the podcast, but we had an old face on as well. Aaron Cox came on the podcast, so Aaron gave his perspective on success and failure, and obviously from a golfer's perspective, a golf professional's point of view, is that something whereby he has to coach those players who might be bit down on themselves, and how he kind of like have to pep them up, and try and get them to try and still love the game, even if the results might not be going as well as they would expect. So fascinating to talk to Aaron.
Well, can I just say, Steve, might have a little bit of breaking news actually, because Ash, who is the director of golf at Darwin Escapes, runs the Trilby Tour, has said there must be some Trilby Tour invites to be given out on this podcast for over 16s. So I know it's a junior golf podcast, but Absolutely. If there's anybody over the age of 16, 17, 18 as well, 16. Who might be interested, then yeah.
Well, 16, 17 is still a junior golfer.
There we go. So I will speak to Ash and see if we can arrange some Trilby Tour invites to go out for some people.
Absolutely. And actually, we will come to one of the podcasts which we covered, which was about golf tours, junior golf tours. So we'll mention a little bit more about the Trilby Tour, and we'll mention some of the other tours as well. We'll come to that in a moment. Right, next podcast which we did, which was just a one interview, and it was me. I was over in Ireland playing at a Legends Tour Pro-Am. My playing partner at the time on that day was European Tour winner and Legends Tour professional Jonathan Lomas, and it was just fascinating afterwards to take, if I'm being honest, I just wanted to take him aside and just have a little bit of 5-10 minute conversation with him. I think 45 minutes later we finished the interview, and I just thought, well, there's a podcast on its own, because it was just brilliant to talk to him about his experience of coming through junior golf and then playing at the highest level. So it was fascinating to hear from someone who been there, done it, and also now who is a senior golfer now, about how he looks back on his life and how he progressed through the junior ranks, because obviously it's a very different experience now from a junior golfer. So it's interesting how the things that he had to go through, and in some respects how more difficult it is now for juniors, and how much respect he has for those juniors who do go on to become professional golfers. So great to hear from him. Now, the next podcast, you might remember this one, because this is probably one of my favorites during the year, and it was one which we've always wanted to do, completely different. We did a rules quiz. We had 3 junior young ambassadors on. We had England Golf young ambassadors, Tom Ford, Daniel Robson, and Henry Price, and we did like a bit of a quiz, didn't we? We had 18 quiz questions, and we got them to hold their cards up to say A, B, C, or D. D, if they ever put D up, then they knew they got it badly wrong, because that was like the jokey answer. So realistically, it was A, B, or C for the quiz question. Actually, I think we've got a video here, because we had DP chief referee Mark Litton who commented, and it was fantastic for us because he did all the answers for us. Someone who, I've got to admit, when I put the 18 questions out, there was a few of them I didn't know what the answer was, and
well, we needed somebody who definitely knew what the answer was.
So just to give you a flavour of the kind of questions which we did raise, here's Mark. Here's one of the ones which we did. So if you take a practice swing, take a divot which hits your ball, what happens?
If the ball is moved by that divot, then you would have to replace it, and it would be a one-shot penalty.
So that was the kind of questions they were getting, kind of thing, and that was the 18th question. And I think in the end we had a bit of a playoff, because I think 2 people.
They did, yeah.
Yes.
They all did well, actually.
Yes,
they all did really well.
They did. You're right, but even then there was a few questions whereby we started off quite easy, didn't we, with sort of very what we should have been easy questions. Then we started getting a little bit more tricky, a little bit more. Yeah. And then they started getting a few of them wrong. So even those juniors who felt as if they knew what all the rules were, and there are loads of rules out there. Let's be honest, golf is not an easy sport to, we talked about the terms and conditions within golf. Well, trying to know the rules it can be, and we've seen plenty of professionals get it wrong as well, haven't we?
I think, Steve,
actually you got the story, and you had the story, of course, with the event that you covered. I don't know if it was last year or the previous year, whereby in the playoff, whereby they got the rules wrong, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it was 2020 Pro Tour at Rockcliffe Hall up near Darlington, and Chris Hansen, of course, played 100 times on the European Tour, was in a playoff against Dan Brown, actually, funnily enough, who's now playing on the European Tour. So they had a playoff, and Chris's tee shot went over a fence into some trees, but it wasn't out of bounds. And anyway, he picked up the ball, dropped it the other side of the fence, and even said to Dan, "Are you okay with me doing this? We think this is the right rules." We filmed it all live, of course. Went on, carried on. Chris won the tournament and won the whatever the prize pot was, only for it to go viral after. And I don't know, somebody got in touch to tell him that actually you've broken the rules. So Chris, fair play to him. He forfeited, DQ'd himself, and handed Dan the win. And now England Golf use that clip to teach their referees the rules of the game.
We ought to use that actually when we do some of the junior stuff as well, because it kind of that illustrates, doesn't it, that even you shouldn't be embarrassed if you do get the rules wrong, and that can for a junior golfer that can be intimidating, can't it? If you feel as if you've got the rules wrong, and in that instance, what about if you got disqualified or you get penalised a couple of strokes? It can be embarrassing, can't it? Well, that's the perfect example whereby even the best players can make errors on occasions.
Yeah, it's almost too easy to get yourself disqualified these days, isn't it? There's too many rules, Steve. Play it as it lies. Unless it's out of bounds, play where it lies.
Yeah, that's my kind of golf. Right.
Yeah, zigzagging.
Now we've mentioned some of the people who we've had on this podcast, and we've had some big names on this podcast. But the next podcast was probably the one whereby we had the big names, because we did a show on elite junior team golf. We had Ryder Cup captain Stephen Gallacher, we had Curtis Cup captain Catriona Matthew, we had major champion Georgia Hall, and we had Austin professional golfer Emma Spitz. So let's just give ourselves a flavour of some of the subjects we covered when we were talking about elite junior team golf. We covered the Junior Solheim Cup, as we mentioned earlier, the Junior Ryder Cup as well. So Catriona Matthew was someone who is going to be the Curtis Cup captain next year. So we had a bit of a chat about her, how she picks a team and all those types of things. This is just a flavour of what we chatted about.
Obviously, I was up at the Vagliano a couple of weekends ago and watched that, which I think will probably be the kind of bulk of the team, the core of the team will come probably from those ones. So it was just nice to, I knew a few of them, but nice to introduce myself to the ones I didn't know. And then they had the junior Vagliano on at the same time, so got to see a couple of them playing. So yeah, it's just getting out there and seeing them a little bit. I'm going to go to a few events next year and see them all playing. So yeah, obviously I think the ones who are going to turn pro I know off now, so I know who's going to be available.
So that's her talking about how she was looking at players for playing in the Curtis Cup. And the reason so for those who aren't aware, the Curtis Cup is a match, an amateur match between the best lady amateurs in I think GB in Ireland against the best lady amateurs over in America. But there will be a lot of junior golfers who will be inevitably part of that squad, because generally speaking, as Catriona mentioned there, some of them will be turning professional, and a lot of them she'll miss out on. But there'll be a lot of juniors involved in that.
We'll probably win that one as well, won't we?
Well, let's hope so. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
Let's
go for the clean sweep. Why not? Yes. Now, someone who was part of not just the Solheim Cup, but also the junior, I think the Junior Solheim Cup she played in as well, was Georgia Hall. Had a chat with Georgia Hall at Centurion at a Ladies European Tour event. This is what her experience of when she was playing in that Junior Solheim Cup.
Obviously over the moon. As an amateur, it's great to have experiences like that and to be under high pressure situations. I think it sets you up really nicely for your professional career, as a lot of times you are under pressure and stress and a lot of people watching. So to have a lot of crowds at Junior Solheim and to play around the same venue as well as the actual Solheim Cup was very special.
So that's Georgia Hall talking about her experience of when she played in the Junior Solheim Cup as well. Now the Junior Ryder Cup as well. Now the interesting thing about the Junior Ryder Cup is that it's boys and girls who play in that, whereas the Junior Solheim Cup is just for the girls. But someone who has played in that event on a couple of occasions is Australian professional golfer Emma Spitz. Also at Centurion Park, had a chat with Emma. This is what she said, her experience of when she found out she'd been picked to play in that match.
I got picked for the Junior Ryder Cup the one year. I think I was just up in my room and I didn't really expect a call. I wasn't sure if I played well enough, and I got a call and they were like, oh yeah, like we just wanted to ask if you would be interested in playing. And I was like, interested? I'm like, sure. Yeah, I was so excited, and then I started screaming and everyone in my house was like, what is it? What's wrong? What's wrong? I was like, oh, I'm playing in the Junior Ryder Cup. So yeah, that was fun.
And the second time round, obviously the experience of already playing in it as well, was it similar experience of when you found out again?
Yeah, I think it's always like this excitement is always the same. I think it just means like so much in junior golf to be picked for that team. So I think it would be the same even if you play like 7 times. Like I think it's like the same if you play like the actual Solheim Cup or Ryder Cup. I think it's probably the same at like your 7th time than your first time.
So that was Emma Spitz there talking about her experience in that. And it was great, isn't the fact that these tour pros, we mentioned about role models, but the fact that they spoke to me and came on the podcast, they're some of the biggest names in the game, aren't they? That with Georgia Hall, Charlie Hurl, Stephen Gallacher as well, who we will see in a little while. But some of the biggest names in the game. It's great to have them on the podcast, isn't it, Ian?
Oh, it's amazing. It shows the power. I mean, they all owe their careers to junior golf, don't they? Really. And we'll get Tiger on this year.
We can't. Well, hey, you joke. I almost got a very snippet with Rory earlier this year, or last year.
No, I'm serious, Steve. There's a local golfer down there called Tiger.
Yes.
Tiger Smith. We'll get him on.
Yes. Well,
actually, I'll tell you what. I do know Tiger Adams. He's a pro golfer.
Yes.
We get him on. He plays Clutch Pro.
Yes.
Get him on.
Yes, I know Tiger as well. I also there's Robin Tiger Williams as well, who's from Peter and Milton Golf Club as well. And Peter and Milton's junior organizer came on, and he was talking on the podcast as well. But anyway, we digress. So next, there's plenty of time. Yes. And wouldn't it be great to get him on the podcast? Now, one of the other podcasts which we covered, we mentioned a little bit earlier, is we looked at junior golf tours, and there were a lot out there. We mentioned about over in Ireland. I've mentioned about the fact that I helped run the Shires Junior Golf Tour, which is based in the East Midlands in England. You've got the Northern Junior Golf Tour, who've been on this podcast the previous year. You've got the Robert Rock Junior Golf Tour. You've got the British Junior Golf Tour. So the Robert Rock and the British Junior Golf Tour tend to be more national. They tend to go all around the country. Over in Scotland, you have Stephen Gallacher organises one. There's 2 tours. There's the Scottish Junior Golf Tour and the Scotland Tour. And so there's lots of different tours, and they aim at different types of players as well, in the sense of some of them have shorter tees where they play them halfway down the fairway. Some of them are more, the Faraday Series, as we well know, that's aimed more at elite junior golfers. So it's fascinating to talk to the different types of people about what their target audience is and what the type of golfers they get in. And as always, we try to get some junior golfers on. So we had another debutant, Olivia Whittle, England Golf Young Ambassador. She came on about her experience of playing in different types of tours as well over the years as well. And we had Stephen Gallacher on as well, who runs his own tour up in Scotland. And you've obviously mentioned about the Faraday Series, but you've experienced there, and you mentioned about the Clutch, which you've worked with as well. They do some junior parts of their tour as well, don't they?
Yeah, they do. 2020 did it as well. Now they have their junior opens and junior events, and I think people are starting to come around that the juniors, they are the future of the game, and they need to be looked after and not being made to sit through a stuffy interview in order to join a club. We need people to join golf clubs. We need juniors to be members of golf clubs, and so let's make it easy for them and not make it hard. And then when you've got people like Tom at Clutch now opening up a junior golf tour, and you've got Chris and Adam at 2020 opening up a junior golf tour, you've gone from basically, other than just sort of local club competitions and county competitions, to being able to tee it up at the Belfry with all the advertising hoardings around, looking like you're playing a real pro event. It's something quite special.
Right. Now, one of the other subjects which we looked at, a fascinating one, I found this really interesting, was looking at golf, junior golf, and other sports, because
I enjoyed this one.
So we looked at it from. So we had Emma Spitz on, who we mentioned earlier, tour pro. She did a lot of skiing when she was young. Obviously, living in Austria, you can imagine, obviously with the slopes there. But we also talked to a sir. It was the first sir that we ever had on this Progress Junior Golf podcast, or at least certainly last year anyway. We have had yourself on, of course. We'll keep that quiet for the time being. We've had Sir Nick Fowler on, to be fair. So we have had a couple of sirs on in the past. But we had someone who was from a different sport. We had England cricket captain Sir Andrew Strauss on, and this was his take on golf and cricket and how he dealt with it as a youngster when he was growing up.
Research says that early specialisation doesn't particularly help you. So playing other sports, also having a break from your main sport, just to refresh yourself mentally, is important. And I played a lot of rugby and cricket in particular, and a bit of golf. So all of those, I think, helped me in some way with my main profession. As much as anything, just you want to stop people burning out. I think that's the key. Like early, when you're in your teens, if you're just playing one sport, I think you can fall out of love with it. And if you fall out of love with it, then you don't want to do the practice and everything. So I think that stuff is more important than anything.
And that obviously was Sir Andrew Strauss as well, talking at the Sunnydale Foursomes when we were down there earlier in the year. So we held on to that clip and for the podcast a little bit later on. If you're wondering why it looks so miserable outside, if you remember, the following day it snowed, didn't it?
It was called off on it. We got one day of play, and then it was unfortunately cancelled.
To be fair, we picked the right day then to go down there.
We picked the only day of play, so yeah.
Yes. Now, Andrew Strauss there mentioned about turning professional, obviously got from a golf point of view. That was the next podcast. So we looked at, junior golfers, about how you actually go about turning professional, because obviously, there are lots of different ways to go about it. You don't have to become a tour pro. You can become, you club pro. You can work in different ways. So we looked at the different options facing junior golfers. And actually we had England Golf Young Ambassador Daniel Robson on, who had recently turned professional. So that was fascinating talking to him about the journey that he'd made into turning professional as well. And we had Ryder Cup golfer, and we keep on mentioning, let's hear from him, because Stephen Gallacher as well, we had a chat with him at the Belfry when he was playing in the British Masters at the Belfry. This is what he had to say about his journey into professional golf.
Lucky, golf was in my family, so I played since a young kid, but I think some other people, it's just having the opportunity to try it, maybe through a school. That's what I'm trying to organise. But I grew up as a member of Bathgate Golf Club as a kid, a young kid, and still played football, still played other sort of sports, and then decided when I was about 12, 13 that I wanted to take it more seriously, quit the football, just got right into the golf, got a bit better, got into the boys junior team at the golf club, and then started to do a little bit of county coaching, and then played for the county, and then got a bit of national coaching, and playing boys opens and stuff like that in between, so playing competitively a lot, and then got picked for the national coaching, going to the national team, then going to the men's team, then going to the Great Britain Ireland team and Walker Cup team, and then it was time to sort of turn pro. So I think the key is to play competitive. I think county golf's massive. I'd love to see a comeback in Scotland, definitely, where the best play against the best more often. I think it's been lost a little bit at county golf. So I think that's the pathway to sort of, if you want to be professional. But apart from that, I think the key is to try golf, know that you like it, and then join your local club.
So that was Stephen Gallacher talking about his journey into professional golf. The next podcast, we mentioned about the fact that we try and touch on different subjects, and some of them are a little bit more serious than others. I think perhaps the one which was the most serious that we looked at throughout the entire year was mental health in junior golf, because, golf is a sport. We have to treat it as a sport. We try and make it as fun as possible, but there are times whereby it's important, and we had England Golf Young Ambassador Emily Horsted on, and she said that she uses golf with her school. It helps her relax. It helps take a bit of stress away from, daily life. And you do have to remember that these kids are having exams. They have without going into too many details, I've just been to my son's parents' evening this evening before we started this podcast. So, and it's an eye opener to see the kind of things that they're having to go through. And golf, sometimes it can get in the way of the studies, but sometimes it can actually be helpful for the studies. So it was fascinating to hear from Emily, and also we had England Golf lead safeguarding officer Petra Devana as well, who obviously as far as safety is concerned and mental health, she gave some of the people, if you do have any issues as far as that is concerned, please go onto the England Golf website. If you do have any issues with mental health,
you've got to wonder though, haven't you, Steve? Like these days, like now's a good time, isn't it? Like we talk now, and things are a lot more open than they used to be than say 20 years ago. So I wonder how many really talented golfers, who had the ability to make it to the top but didn't quite get the support they needed from mentally, who probably should have made it but never did because the support just wasn't there. It's good because we've made these strides now, isn't it?
And it's also just moving into the next podcast we did as well, something which junior golfers and people in general have to deal with now more than perhaps 5, 10, 15, certainly 20 years ago, social media. And that's a podcast which we covered social media within junior golf. We had influencer Mia Baker on. She obviously gave her take on it as well. And we also had the England Golf Young Ambassador Kai Williams, who looks after the social media for the England Golf Young Ambassador as well. So I know, and you as well, someone who works in the media industry as well, something where you got involved in that podcast and gave your perspective on social media and how it can help, but also you have to be a bit wary of it at times.
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of it. Now we've gone from having to buy a newspaper to getting the instant information, and used correctly, it's a really powerful tool. But it's like any walks of life, for any industry is the same. Everything it's called development. It's called moving forward. You'll always get some idiots. And it doesn't matter what the development was. You just thought it'll just happen, unfortunately. But just got to be better than them.
Now, the podcast that we did at the start of November was one about running a grand final. And the reason why we did this is because, personally speaking, I just ran two grand finals, one for the Shires Junior Golf Tour and one for Warwickshire Golf Union. We went through the processes that I went through, setting it up, getting the players there, running on the day, and then afterwards as well. And that process now has already started again for me, for looking ahead to this year, you see. So it's not just a case of you always have to throw it together with 2 or 3 weeks notice. The process starts well in advance, and from my point of view, I have no issue whatsoever sharing that with people to try and give them a little bit of help and advice about how you go about running these grand finals and trying to make them. I'm not a great fan, I'll be honest, of using the phrase grand final, because it makes it sound as if you have to be the best player in the world to play in this grand final. I would prefer to call it, and there is a golf club out there which does do this. They call it the Festival of Golf, and I like that. The fact that make it sound as if we're just having a good old time here, and anyone is welcome, kind of thing.
So you'd rather win a grand final, wouldn't you, than a Festival of Golf?
Well, true, and I get that kind of thing. But there are ways of making it sound more fun and giving prizes. One of the things which I've mentioned in that show was the fact that I give a calendar to every player who made it through to the grand final. Of action photos of them during the year. You see, so just my way of saying to them, thank you for taking part in the event this year, and this is the memories of your year, kind of thing. So there are ways of doing that. Next podcast which we did, and only 3 more to go in the year that we did, we talked about schools golf, and really we hadn't touched upon this too often throughout the podcast. So we had Unleash Your Drive manager Andy Leon and England Golf Young Ambassador Daniel Robson came on and talked about how when he played golf at schools and what they're trying to do with schools golf as well. Nick Doherty, who's Sky Sports commentator, I know that he is very, very keen on getting more golf into schools. So, so good luck to him and well done to him for pushing that. The last one, or the next one we did, was International Junior Golf. I got invited out, very fortunate to go out to the Faldo Series Grand Final that took place in the UAE. So I used that as an opportunity to talk to golfers and some people who are representing golf in different countries. So we had, we chatted about the UAE, obviously the host country, South Africa, Sweden, and Kenya as well, which was a country which you wouldn't necessarily associate with golf and junior golf in particular. So it's fascinating to hear different points of view about how they look at golf and how they try and promote the game of golf across the world. And then the last one that we did last year was talking about junior organising, about being a junior organiser, and it was one of the most rewarding ones for myself, because I felt as if I was really giving someone advice and they were taking it on board, because we have Michael Lewis, who contacted the Progress Junior Golf podcast and said, I've just taken over as the junior organiser at my golf club, Townley Golf Club. I'd like some advice on what to do. So we just thought, let's get him on. Let's pile him full of people in the junior organiser, Charles Gunn, came on. We had England Golf Young Ambassador Chloe Saunders as well, give a junior perspective. You also give your point of view as well. But it was great to obviously pass that information on. I'm pleased to say that Michael and Charles have been in touch with each other since then, and obviously trying to get it up and running at Townley Golf Club. So that was the podcast that we covered last year, and I think we covered a lot of different subjects.
We did. It was a great year. Second year.
Absolutely. So we're into year 3 now. So
I can believe that, year 3.
Any ideas about what we might be covering over the next 12 months? What haven't we covered, I suppose, is the question.
Well, there's a lot coming up in 2024, actually, Steve. Tournaments galore. I've got a little announcement as well. I'm going to be at Schools Golf in Scotland later in the year as well. We are potentially going to be doing quite a bit of filming up there as well. It ties in very nicely with a Trilby Tour event, actually. We've got the Trilby Tour event on the Monday, straight to Schools Golf the next day. So very much looking forward to that. I mean, there's endless things to talk about, isn't there? There really, really is. And because we're into year 3 now, it's probably some of the episodes from year 1 are a bit out of date now and probably need to be touched on again. I mean, yes. I know we did the rules one last year, sort of midway through the year or so, but that's almost changing so often, isn't it? And so there'll be a lot of new topics. There'll be a lot of exciting new guests. Like you said, we've got Charlie Holt coming up again soon as well. So I'm very much looking forward to that one. And if anybody has any suggestions, what needs to be tackled in junior golf? If you're a parent of a junior who plays golf and you don't feel like we've answered a burning question or something that needs seeing to in junior golf, let us know. Contact us in the live chat and tell us what we should be talking about.
Just one of the subjects two subjects which we're definitely going to be covering. We're going to be covering England Golf's one of their new packages that they're putting together, which is called Get Into Golf Rookies. They've got a Girls Golf Rocks campaign, which has been going for a few years, and they're trying to develop that now. So it's not just girls, it's boys and girls who are doing a very similar thing. And also we're doing one on Junior Golf is Fun. I'm just going to do one about just, I mentioned the night golf there, just things which are just completely off the scale. Just
do you know what it is, isn't it? Like all sport is fun, and golf is particular fun, isn't it?
Yes. Well, you'll be I started out playing crazy golf. That's where I started out, and I suspect there's going to be a lot of people out there who started the same way. They started playing, on a par 3 little golf course somewhere.
You're still waiting for your first hole in one, Steve, eh?
I've had one on the golf simulator. I'm still claiming that. That is still my. There you can see the. I've got the flag to say I got a hole in one. Honestly, I did.
Yeah. I don't know. It looks superimposed on the wall there.
But we're going to be covering lots of different things over this next year or so. Charlie Hill will hopefully get some big names on as always, because inevitably I'm going to bump into some people over the years. But thanks for everyone who's been part of the Progress Junior Golf Plus podcast over 2023. Well done to everyone who did well during the last year. But we've got a lot more to come over the next 12 months and beyond. So please keep on watching. Have a good evening, and we will catch up with you very soon.
Take care, everybody. We're going to go get some Lemsip.
Probably wise.
Bye-bye.